It's Power Hour LSU.
Let's go. A very happy NFL Championship Sunday to each and every one of you. And you could see it's been a championship weekend for LSU. Take a look at that. Jordan Seaton with the world famous, most popular Kiffin on the planet Earth, Cookie to the far left. And then, of course, Lane over to the far right. He's kind of cool, too. With that Mercedes-Benz. I wish I had a Mercedes-Benz. I'll stick with my Camry. That gas mileage, you can't beat it. Jordan Seaton, though, really excited about this. Really excited about the entire LSU staff getting this done all the way up to Mr. Glasscock and then support staff. I mean, goodness gracious. There are so many people that really got the job done in getting Jordan Seaton to Baton Rouge. And, of course, we talked about Lane Kiffin flying midway through the recruiting process to go talk Sam Levitt into doing the right thing. And he did the same thing here with Mr. Jordan Seaton. But what I want to do is share with you something that means a lot to me, which is really good sports YouTube videos. People that love to put in extra work, because while I love doing the live stream stuff, it's my favorite thing to do, honestly, is doing live shows and live radio and those kinds of things. The people I truly do appreciate, not the Bloviators, not the Stephen A. Smiths of the world, even though I do like Stephen A. I do want to shout out the YouTube deep divers. And this video from Michael McKelvey puts together an argument that I have made for a long time when it comes to offensive line play in not only the NFL, but I also believe this applies to college football. So pay attention, and I'm going to tell you what this all means when it comes to Jordan Seaton and why Jordan Seaton might not actually be LSU's most important offensive lineman.
Changes to a system can lead to a disproportionate effect. But weak link might not be as straightforward as you think. The first line here is the fifth worst offensive lineman. Our y-axis represents passing EPA, and our x-axis is the pass blocking grade. This data is courtesy of Eric Eager, formerly of PFF. Now, let's put the rest of the line on here. The fourth worst, the third worst, the second best, and the best. Notice how the best lineman is further right. Looking at our x-axis, this makes sense. He is graded the highest. The more right, the better the lineman. However, notice the difference in slope. The steeper the line, the more sensitive the team's success is to that player's performance. The steepest line is the third best lineman. This tells us something fascinating. When the third best lineman has a bad day, it can have dire consequences. If the star has a bad day, it still hurts, but it just doesn't impact the line as much. The worst lineman is the least important, substantially less important than our other four, maybe because he is highly replaceable.
So that's kind of weak link. I mean, if it was truly weak link, wouldn't the worst lineman's performance be more sensitive than the third worst? Nonetheless, this is all fascinating and counterintuitive at first glance, a sign that interventions can have disproportionate outcomes.
All right. So what is he saying exactly? Well, it's a few things. The first is, as good as Jordan Seaton might be next year. It really doesn't matter if we don't have at least multiple good offensive linemen. And there's a few other things that he touched on in the video. I highly recommend you go check it out. In fact, that video was actually done for the official NFL account. I do not own the video, so NFL, please don't take my channel down. I probably should have thought twice about it. But basically, your best offensive lineman matters. I'm not saying Jordan Seaton does not matter. He's going to be our best offensive lineman next year. But your third offensive lineman, the middle of the pack guy, matters. All right. And when you break it down, it goes back to what I said a few years ago about the LSU offensive line. It wasn't necessarily that the 2024 LSU offensive line wasn't bad or wasn't great. It's that they had one really, really, really weak link. So basically, if one of your offensive linemen is downright terrible, your entire operation is probably going to fall apart. Now, if all of your offensive linemen are at least good enough to start in the SEC, your third best offensive lineman matters the most. And that's why I want to talk about Alu Ba. All right. So Will Rosenblatt tweeted out a really good clip of Alu Ba a little bit earlier today. He is a Maryland offensive lineman transfer. He'll probably play one of the offensive guard positions. He is so important to this entire operation. If he's not good, LSU is in a tough spot. In particular, if he plays right guard and we have to go to Weston Davis at right tackle, a good offensive guard can help out your offensive tackle. And then obviously, if Jordan Seaton truly is elite, we could put him more on an island and have a tight end help out whoever the right tackle will be next year. So once again, McKelvey's video is not law. It more so applies to the NFL than in college. But I strongly do believe this to be true. You can agree with this or you can disagree with this. The more you watch football, the more you realize that one elite offensive lineman really changes not a whole lot. You have got to have good everywhere. And, you know, we talk all the time about my favorite offensive line ever, which is the 2007 LSU offensive line. If you were to go call into Matt Flynn's show tomorrow, he's going to be pumped up. He's a former Seahawk. They're going to the Super Bowl. Call in tomorrow and, you know, ask him about the 07 LSU offensive line. And he'll probably tell you, man, this is the most under-talked about unit position ever at LSU, because that unit didn't have one spectacular player. They had 5 really good players. All right. So Saron Black obviously was close to being truly spectacular, but you had Lyle Hitt. You had Brett Helms. You had Carnell Stewart and the right tackle slipping my. No, actually, Carnell Stewart was the right tackle. The biggest baby in Louisiana history was Herman Johnson. He was the right guard. They were good everywhere. They weren't truly elite at any one of the positions. They were all very good, though. And simply put, LSU had the antithesis of the 2024 offensive line, where they were good everywhere except center. This past year, they were good at center and not great everywhere else. So if we know that the third offensive lineman, if this indeed does apply to college football, is the most important, we would like to think Jordan Seaton's going to be our best offensive lineman. And then our second best offensive lineman is probably going to be Braylon Moore. We know the likelihood of those players actually being good next year are going to be pretty high. So who is the next most important? It's whoever that third best offensive lineman actually is. Saw Glenn West tweet this out of 247. Really good writer. He tweeted out the starting LSU offensive line. And all he put was left tackle Jordan Seaton, center Braylon Moore, and question marks everywhere else. So what does that mean? What does that mean for you watching at home? That there's so much that goes into what makes a good offensive line. Now, there's one extra spicy detail, and it's why I said this is the truth. It's the title of the video. I'm pointing at it as if it's right there. I know it's not right there. But you notice it says Lane Kiffin Cooks. A little bit later in the McKelvey video, they showed the biggest change in offensive line play from last year to this year were the Chicago Bears, where they had Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams took the most sacks in the NFL, and this year he took amongst the fewest, and sacks he was responsible for went down by 25 sacks. So what changed? Well, they went and got Joe Thuney, who's one of the best offensive linemen of this last decade in the NFL. They brought him over from Andy Reid's Kansas City Chiefs, but it was Ben Johnson. They changed the head coach. They went and got the best play caller in my mind in the NFL. And guess what we did? We went and got the best play caller in the SEC, which of course is Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. So a big thing is the offensive line just not going to be there. The individual talent of the offensive linemen don't matter as much when you have good play calling. Because if you have good play calling, you give the defense so many different looks that it's going to be near impossible to figure out what the heck is even going on. And that's going to help out whoever the rest of the offensive linemen are going to be. But if you were to stick, something that could, destroy my soul right in front of me, and I were to say, hey, who is going to for sure start on the offensive line outside of Seaton and outside of Braylon Moore, I would probably say Aluba. And I love that name. Aluba sounds like a Chelsea striker. Doesn't sound like an LSU offensive lineman. But I'm so freaking excited. And for those that remember Demba Ba, I actually met Demba Ba at Steve Nash's charity soccer match. He was a great soccer player for the Blues. As we say hi to AP, Bloviators, Cliff, good to see you. Waylon, we have some viewers on Twitter. I want to talk about Jordan Seaton's run blocking. Yeah, we talked about that. I should have included this at the very beginning. We released a lot of Jordan Seaton content. I don't know if I can do another Jordan Seaton video for a very long time because we're doing tonight's live stream. We released a 45-minute long film study. And we also released a members-only Patreon film review that I've already gotten a lot of good, responses on, in particular Donovan, one of our sharpest viewers in the Patreon. It's interesting. This has been brought up. Jordan Seaton's run blocking isn't great, right? It is a below average or a below replacement level blocking grade. And it shows up. It does. I think what you have to understand about him as a player, though, is he is such a prodigious pass blocker that you make up for it with him not being a good run blocker. Something else in that McKelvey video is that he did theorize that offensive line run blocking might actually be more important than offensive line pass blocking. I don't know if I truly believe in that. And once again, that's the NFL compared to college. But what I would say, though, is, number one, I do think it is harder to find elite pass blockers than it is to find elite run blockers. And then number two, I think a good play caller or a truly elite play caller can work around a tackle who's not a great run blocker compared to a tackle who's not a great pass blocker. All right. I truly, truly, truly do believe that, in particular at the college level, for a few reasons. But yes, the run blocking grades aren't great. What I would also say is you do see flashes of really good run blocking. Also, Seaton as a player is not a I'm going to rip your face off kind of player. That's just not really who he is. And I know that that's counterintuitive of what you normally think of an elite offensive lineman, but he is more of a finesse player. He's a very nuanced player. I will also say this about Jordan Seaton after watching a few interviews and really watching him closely. I've really focused in on the two games that we broke down, but I saw some other clips and games and all of that. He is truly gifted right here. This is a smart player. And normally kids from DC are, right? The schools in DC are really good. He went to St. John's, which is one of the best schools. I've had family members go there. And they normally produce smart kids from there. The Under Armour started there, basically. So that's where he played, and then he went to IMG Academy. His football IQ is truly incredible. And why that matters is our offensive line did not have great football IQ last year. All right. Whether it comes to twist, which was the point of the Patreon breakdown from earlier today. Look at him, Dingle. Whoever picks up this gifted membership, you get the access to the membership we did a little bit earlier. It could be Cole. Cole could get it. Or no, it was Kovac got it. But you will see how smart this guy is. He is truly a smart offensive lineman. Something else I like about Jordan Seaton being a preeminent offensive line transfer portal guy is that we do get to talk more about offensive line play. My analytics will go down if I spend too much time, complaining about Weston Davis or whatever, or talking about Lau Hit. And Lau was a friend of mine in college, but I just love nerding out over the nuances of football. So tonight we're going to talk about Sam Levitt. We're going to talk about the NFC and AFC championship games. I do also want to talk about something that was very interesting regarding Lane Kiffin over the weekend. And Lane tweeted this out earlier today. And I hope Lane's not watching this because I'm about to give him a lot of praise about one of his favorite people. And I'm about to criticize another one of his famous people or favorite people. Actually, these are the two favorite people that Lane Kiffin has on the entire planet when it comes to the game of football. All right. And Lane tweeted this out, and I was going to save this for the Lane tweet segment, but this really spoke to me. And it's going to include what we just watched with the Rams and the Seahawks. So basically, Lane played a clip that's been passed around a few times about Nick Saban talking about his style of football phasing out and him going to get Lane Kiffin to modernize his game. And Lane retweeted that, also added Alabama. And it meant a lot to Lane Kiffin that tweet went viral again, to the point, obviously, Lane in the press conference said, hey, I owe my entire career to Nick Saban. That's why he listened to Nick, and we probably don't get Lane Kiffin if Nick Saban didn't tell him, hey, go take that job. But there was another coach that Lane also reached out to about the LSU job that also told him to take the LSU job. It's Pete Carroll. All right, so we focus so much on Nick, but Pete was the second coach. So if you were to ask Lane, hey, who are the two legendary coaches you care about the most, outside of his dad, of course, he would probably say Nick, and he would probably say Pete. So the weird thing about that is Pete was the opposite. So Pete was arguably the worst coach in the NFL this year. The Raiders were the worst team in the NFL this year. They're drafting number one overall. They'll have Fernando Mendoza here in a few months. And I hate to say this, I hope Lane's not watching the one time I'm criticizing Pete, but this is essentially what happened to Pete Carroll. You can go listen to Pete talk about his prehistoric way of thinking about the game of football, which was, hey, if we kick, play good defense, and run the football, we're going to win a lot of football games. And to that, there's some truth in that, right? Running the football is still important, kicking the football well. But Nick said the opposite of that in the tweet that Lane tweeted out a little bit earlier today. So what happened in tonight's game? Well, the coach that they replaced Pete Carroll with was Mike Macdonald, who is a defensive coach like Pete Carroll, but he's very forward-thinking. He's very analytically sound. And what Mike Macdonald did was he fired Ryan Grubb. He goes back to Alabama. Ironically, Mike installs a new coach who runs the football better in Clint Kubiak. But what did the Seahawks do to close this game? They did not just run the football. They were throwing with the lead late. They threw on second down a few times, and it shocked Tom Brady. So what that told me tonight is, number one, obviously Pete Carroll, to me, is still a good coach. I don't think he's bad. But it goes to show you how much this game changes, how much the ebbs and flows change in the game of football, from the actual X's and O's to now with NIL and all of that. You have got to keep the foot on the gas. And you also, as a football coach, you know less than what you think you know, because things change so freaking much in this sport. It really does. And that's why I'm so pro Lane Kiffin. Who was the first coach really in college football to truly push and go for it a bunch? It was Lane, in particular in the SEC. He was the first one. And they called him crazy for it. They called him crazy. Drives me crazy that they slandered him. And what did Lane do? He went for it a bunch. Now, he almost got too aggressive with it, as Sean Payton did today. But as time moved on, Lane's fourth down aggressiveness evolved. He got more aggressive on fourth down. Actually, excuse me, he got less aggressive on fourth down, but he got more creative on fourth down, using defensive linemen as wildcat quarterbacks. This year, he didn't do that, but all his fourth down conversions, for the most part, was a lot of misdirection. One versus South Carolina was a reverse. And then, obviously, one versus Oklahoma was a little slip to his tight end right. So, I'm of the belief that Lane Kiffin is a guy that's not going to rest on his laurels. This is a guy who went full on, foot on the gas. And to me, the sign of a coach who has truly evolved with the times is one who is willing to do whatever it takes to land a kid. Because I guarantee you, there are some old school coaches who are from yesteryear, coached back when Fred Flintstone was still rolling around, who would have never have taken that extra flight to go meet with Sam Levitt because, well, we're too good for him. We don't need to be begging anyone, especially if this kid is already making millions. These kids are entitled, blah, blah, blah. Lane didn't do it once. He did it twice, once again with Jordan Seaton. It is so important to understand that this sport changes faster than any other sport. It changes, and all sports do. All sports do. But, you know, it does feel great because I don't think Brian Kelly felt that same way. Brian Kelly's fourth down aggressiveness was actually fine. I thought he understood analytics fine. But when it comes to roster building, he was behind the eight ball. The 2024 defensive roster was inexcusably bad. We called it out at the time. We were playing a lot of year 2, 3 stars that weren't quite ready for it. So what are we doing going into this year? This is a portal team. If you weren't an elite player, you're out the door. All right? I'm telling you. I got so many angry messages. Well, Carter, we should have done what we could to keep Kyle Parker. Are you complaining about it now? Are you complaining about it now? I'm telling you right now. Winnie Watkins is what you think Kyle Parker actually is. And Kyle's probably going to be a good player. But Winnie Watkins, he could play. And I'm not sure if he's going to play next year because this is such a loaded, deep, transfer-heavy wide receiver room. But I charted the Oklahoma game last night where he went for 111. Watch out. Watch out, man. It's going to get nasty. This is going to get nasty. Okay? Everybody, welcome Roderick, our newest member, Mr. Aguilar. We're going to hop on a call pretty soon, Roderick. Be ready for it. Was Seaton highly recruited out of high school or was he a late bloomer? No, he was about as can't miss of a 5-star you can as you could find. Let's go to Jesse. Carter, I love your fake laugh that you do all the time. So if Lane is watching, I doubt he is. That was not a shot at one of your mentors. I was more so praising Nick, but at the same time, I do think the Raiders would have been better if Pete was a little bit more forward thinking. And obviously, I'm not going to get into what Pete's biggest mistake was, but it was pretty big. I love it. Let's see. Solid content. I got a solid content remark. Hey, there's 1,000 good LSU YouTubers out there. I'm a dime a dozen. I'm kidding. I like to think that we're unique here. There's a lot of people that do a really good job of this. And I appreciate there's so many people in here, even though we had to delay the start of the live stream to show respect to Sir Thomas Brady. But there you go. And here's the thing. I cannot thank you guys enough. This was one of the worst weekends of my life in terms of a personal thing. Not tragic, but I was going to Fayetteville, Arkansas this weekend. Roads iced over. Couldn't go. I had seats 10 rows up from the court and hotels booked. All my best friends live in Fayetteville. My best friends, at least I went to high school with, whose kids wear PHL bands. They wear purple and gold LSU bands. And I don't get to see them. You know, I don't live close to Fayetteville at all. And I was sad. You know, I had to deal with their kids like sending me videos and stuff like that of them at the game and all that stuff. So you guys being here for me was very, very big. I was supposed to have, birthday dinner and go see the people that stood in my wedding. I couldn't go. But we kept it lit in the Discord. Discord was very fun this weekend. And then you guys obviously showing love, including new members. Look, my goal every live stream is to get at least 5 new members. Okay. Let's go to Brian here. How do I feel about James Craig and Williford coaching this offensive line? Would you have hired Sam Pittman or another big offensive line coach? Yeah, obviously Sam would have picked up the phone if Lane called. Lane has a lot of respect for Sam. Obviously Sam, put BTA on Lane a few times. But, I wouldn't have made that move to go get Sam. Is he the best offensive line mind out there right now? Yeah, he is. But Lane, Sam, he is older, just had a huge hip replacement, and he's got about as sweet of a lake house as you can ask for in Central Arkansas. So he's fine. He's doing good. But I like the decision they went with Walford. I like the fact that they brought James Craig back. I think anything's an improvement with what we had from last year to this year. So there you go. We say hi to Ray with the YNWA. Oh, you can't say that this weekend. It is a good message, but you can't say YNWA. Now, some of you probably don't know what YNWA. It's not it's not what the normal NWA stands for, and I'm not talking about Northwest Arkansas. He's not saying that. That does sound like, though, some white folks like bringing back ice. If you didn't know what YNWA, you probably would say, "Oh, that's kind of random." We're both Liverpool fans, and YNWA stands for "You'll Never Walk Alone." It's our rally cry as Liverpool fans. And we lost this weekend. So there you go. Let's take a few more. Seattle or New England. I say a few more before we go to break. Our friends at Labor Therapy have already said, hey, if you want to push the break back a little bit, go right on ahead. That's why they're the absolute best. Thomas in the career, Labor Therapy and labortherapy.com. Seattle or New England, says Mac 72711. Yeah, I would lean Seattle. They've played better football. New England's not really played great offensively. But then again, Drake May's a better quarterback. Seattle, New England's probably my favorite Super Bowl. Outside of course, Saints, Colts. Which was also kind of tough because I am such a big Peyton Manning fan. But Saints winning the Super Bowl is the best thing ever. But yeah, I would lean Seattle. I would. Now, if you were an LSU fan, there's more LSU players, obviously, with the Patriots. Kayshawn, Kaylevon, Braden, and Will. And then, obviously, for the Seahawks, it's Anthony Bradford. Now, here's the thing. One thing about the Patriots, and we got a new member. We're almost there at 5. One thing that's interesting, and before I get into this final pro rant, and then we'll get back into some current LSU stuff, what I want you to think about here, the New England Patriots, we don't like them. We simply do not like the Patriots. However, no franchise has been more friendly to LSU than the Patriots when it comes to our professional players' success. Some directly, some indirectly. So, Kev Falk is an NFL legend because of Tom Brady and the Patriots. Obviously, what's going on here? How about another one whose son just got offered by LSU, Brandon LaFell? Won multiple Super Bowls with the Patriots. Big deal. So there was a lot of like marginal non-Pro Bowl level LSU players whose history is remembered forever. And indirectly as well. The greatest pass deflection in NFL history was arguably Corey Webster at the end of that undefeated Patriots Super Bowl when Corey was playing with the Giants. Then you get into some other LSU players, some other LSU corners that were on the wrong end of Tom Brady's wrath and the Patriots. So that's Jalen Collins and Deion Jones. They were on the field, obviously, for the comeback of all comebacks for the Falcons. And then probably the worst I've ever felt for an LSU Tiger, the worst, because I also had classes with this young man, and he's very underrated. Member of the 2011 LSU secondary, Daryl Simon. So a Seahawks DB had a big interception early in that game versus the Patriots. He got hurt. And then after that, Daryl Simon had to go in for him, cold off the bench, and they never adjusted. You know, the Legion of Boom and that secondary, one thing that they weren't was complex. They just had really good dudes. So if you step in on a secondary with really good dudes and you play a lot of man stuff, guess what the Patriots are going to do? They're going to put Julian Edelman versus Daryl Simon, and Daryl had a tough night, as most would, guarding Super Bowl Julian Edelman. So it's ridiculous how much the Patriots have intertwined with LSU and vice versa. And now we have 4 players for the Patriots playing in this game this weekend. Now, it was a rant that didn't have a whole lot to do with anything, but it goes to show you how much LSU has been affected by the Patriots in many ways. You don't remember Daryl Simon? I love Daryl Simon, man. Very underrated. Did you know Daryl Simon had the game-clinching play versus Johnny Manziel in College Station? Yeah, I don't want to get too far into it. I will, though, since you have been one of our best viewers. Do we want to get back into the tampering stuff? I think some of you want to. We'll do it after this, and then we'll get into everybody's favorite segment. Now, it's kind of controversial this
Power Hour Network listeners and viewers, you might be consuming this content with that crick in your back that you've been trying to get rid of for so long. Take this as your sign today to book your appointment with LabourdTherapy.com. In the Lafayette region, there is no one that you will find that cares more about any different type of pain that you might have than the team at LabourdTherapy.com. Book today. Once again, that's LABORDE therapy.com, or you can visit one of their 5 locations all throughout the Lafayette region.
Let's go to Ronnie. As many of you know, I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan. AP Tad, once again, thank you for your membership. I can't wait. You know what's funny? This always goes viral, and I think it's because Twitter knows, like, Christopher Nolan is like the Joe Burrow of movies for me. Dude, my Twitter feed is just people raving about Interstellar. I love Interstellar. It's probably not even like a top 3 Nolan movie for me, though. That's how much I freaking love that guy. But anyway, let's talk about the tampering. All right, so Ole Miss fans have accused Lane of being involved in this Dabo thing. And then at the same time, they're also blaming Lane for all the finessing that Ole Miss has done in the portal, because we had to go get TJ Daugherty, and then obviously Stampinelli. Ugh. I don't even know what to say, basically. I think for me, I say Stampinelli. What's that young man's name again? Pull it back up. Farrelly. Luke Farrelly. I understand Ole Miss's side of it. I really do. I understand it, because you're at a disadvantage with the transfer portal to begin with, because you're losing guys so much later in the cycle. So Ole Miss is going to say, hey, look, there's only so much we can do. Our hands are tied behind our backs. We're in a spot where we're so freaking late into the cycle because we were busy playing playoff games. I get it. I really do get it. So I sympathize with them just a little bit. But I'll be honest, Ian. The Ole Miss burners on Twitter, they're ruthless. And I understand. Hey, those are the burners. But I swear, man, my guy Preston Guy, he has gotten absolutely torched on social media. My guy Blake, everybody that does this has been called a name by an Ole Miss media member, or not media member, but burner account. Here's my thing. I don't mind burner accounts, which is basically an anonymous account on social media. I don't mind it. But if you talk a big game, you shouldn't have a burner account. All right, if you talk a lot of trash, it doesn't count unless you have a burner, or unless you're putting your real self out there. Or if you're talking about stuff that truly matters, you shouldn't be behind a burner account unless you're sharing pertinent information. But if you're sharing a bold opinion, I always show more love to it when you have that beautiful face on that profile photo. All right. Like Keith, for instance. That's Keith right there. Thank you, P4. Daryl Simon. We will defend his honor. Funkle. That's his beautiful face. Or a dog. Dogs are even better. Ronnie's beautiful face with his beautiful family. Same thing with Mr. Aguilar. Who knows a lot about NIL. All right, so let's get to everybody's favorite segment. What did Lane tweet today? I know, oh boy, it got It got crazy this weekend over something Lane tweeted and deleted. I won't touch on it, by the way. Or I might. I don't know. We'll see how we're feeling here in a minute. Lane currently at an airport hangar. And there's that Alabama A. Here's something that you might want to get used to. Obviously, Lane coming over from Ole Miss. Lane's real big part of his career, I mean, arguably the single most important piece of the Lane Kiffin turnaround, was Nick Saban hiring him. And Lane is always going to show love to Alabama, and he's always going to show love to Ole Miss. Now, I understand. If you were to ask most LSU fans, who are the two schools you despise the most? You're probably going to say Alabama and Ole Miss. Lane is always going to show a lot of love to Alabama. And this is what we were talking about a little bit earlier. All right, we'll go ahead and play this clip.
It's not like that now. I mean, we have, but it's not like that now. I mean, we have good defense. I mean, we gave up 19 points a game last year, and that was first in the SEC. 19 points a game. That's 6 points above what we think is average, which is giving up 13 points a game. And it's first in the SEC. So the game is different now. People score fast. The whole idea, like I grew up with the idea that you play good defense, you run the ball, you control vertical field position on special teams, and you're going to win. Whoever rushes the ball the most for the most yards is going to win the game. You're not going to win anything now doing that. All right, because the way the spread is, the way the rules are to run RPOs, the way the rules are that you can block downfield and throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, those rules have changed college football. All right, and no huddle fastball has changed college football. So I changed my philosophy about 5 or 6 years ago. All right, and well, it was more than that. When Lane came here, we said we got to outscore them. Now, when you take that philosophy, the defense plays more plays. All right, we play about 15 plays more a game now that we're a no-huddle team and we go fast than we used to. 15 plays a game on defense when we used to control the ball on offense.
So this was obviously Nick from a few years ago. And Lane retweeted this. Added LSU football and Alabama football. We'll get to your super chat in just a second. 318 West. Actually, we'll go ahead and go to it. And we'll get back to what Lane tweeted today. All right, what the hell is going on? Bo, what is our crazy-ass coach doing now? Because we all tripping on X right now. I don't know. I don't know why he's I think him and Lane's going to Alabama after all. I'm kidding. And I don't know why he tweeted out the photo of the Alabama planes. I don't. But it's a good super chat. You never really know what's going on with old Lane. We keep it going here. Oregon visited Atlanta. Lane flew up to Atlanta, committed. Lane flew to Knoxville, committed. Lane Kiffin becomes Mardi Gras royalty, will co-reign over a massive New Orleans parade. And that parade is Endymion. I've been to Endymion Ball before. It was probably top 5 nights of my life going to Endymion Ball. Now, the Endymion Ball I went to, I actually went to 2. But the first one I went to wasn't in the Superdome. And I don't know if it's still held in the Superdome or not. But this one was at the New Orleans Convention Center. And your boy had a few soda pops that night. I remember Train performing. Probably wasn't the only train that was run that night. Not on my end, or for somebody else. It was crazy. Here's Lane Kiffin tweeting out a bunch of dead ducks. I swear when I saw this image earlier, on my phone, it came up a sensitive image warning. I could not believe it. Are dead ducks a sensitive image now? I swear, I might just be making it up. It doesn't when I'm not on desktop, but when I was on my mobile phone, it pulled up, this is a sensitive image. Dead ducks? My name is not Daffy. I can look at a bunch of dead ducks. So who's in this image? Looks like we have Sam Levitt, Whit Weeks, and is that John Randall Belton? I really didn't look at this that close. I think to the far right, that's Landry. I don't know. I don't want to misidentify anybody. But I couldn't believe it. Are we so sensitive we can't look at dead ducks now? That's all. I don't know anything about duck hunting, though. That is a lot. I don't even know what hunting break camp is. I don't know where Larto Lake is. Okay, like John Randall Belton. Okay. Honey break. Lane Kiffin says 1 of 1. I'm not going to show what that tweet said because it had a word on there that could get you demonetized. It wasn't anything bad. It's just you got to be very sensitive with that word. And I get it. But it was an Ole Miss message board going crazy. And then obviously this is a retweet. Chris Kiffin telling Cookie he can go home now.
Go
Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Love to see it. Lane Kiffin trying to flip Eastern Royal. There we go. This is funny. And if it don't snow, I'm taking these groceries back. And Lane said, without the bags. What a great callback, of course, from his trip where he took the basket. Lane Kiffin landed the number 1 player in Lamar Brown, the number 1 DT in Richard Anderson, number 1 DT in Georgia in Deuce Gerald's, number 1 edge in Florida, Trenton Henderson, number 1 OT in Louisiana, Bryson Martinez, number 1 CB in Havon Finney, number 1 quarterback, Sam Levitt, number 1 edge, Prince Will Umamielen, and number 1 offensive tackle, Jordan Seaton. Jalen Haywood hanging out with his coaches. There we go. Offensive line. Love to see it. That's 373 pounds. How about that? Lane Kiffin showing love to the Flores family. Head coach's suite. Lane Kiffin shouting out Governor Landry. Jalen Haywood once again. Lane Kiffin retweeting the great Jacob Hester. The gap between this recruiting class and everybody else, pretty big. Fred McAfee is joining the LSU staff as an assistant running back coach to Kevin Smith. There's Jeff Martin. Been around for a good bit. Member of the 2019 LSU staff. Oh, I love this guy. Ken, it's my mom's favorite content creator.
Stop playing. Hey, my boy say the video had him dying, huh? Hey, Tiger Nation. Hey, the new Heisman winner, man. Come on, stop playing, baby.
Stop playing.
Fuck got with me.
Huh? Ken's got an open invite to join PHL. God, he's so funny. Can't play this clip. I wish I could. Jordan Seaton, the clip. We continue here. Jordan Seaton's new profile photo. Let's go. Throw up the L's, Jordan. Love it. Cookie again. Lane Kiffin said he was coming to LSU to go get the best players across the United States, and he wasn't effing around. Lane Kiffin getting some grub. He said, spot the ball. And there you go. And obviously, we touched on all of these tweets. So that is what Lane Kiffin has tweeted today and over the past 48 hours. We always check in on all Lane's Twitter feed. Loving life, baby. Yeah, I don't get it. I'm serious. Oh, and I wasn't hating on Honey. I just don't know anything about hunting. Can't believe it. Born in Baton Rouge and went to high school in Arkansas, and I don't hunt. Sacrilegious. Those are arguably the two biggest hunting states in America. Ronnie's been to Endymion Ball as well, dude. Endymion Ball is insanity. Insanity. And boy, it's got a good setup at Honey Break. Yeah, so I don't even know anything about hunting. That's on me though. I've never been hunting. Don't know where to get a hunting license. I don't know if you need a license. I heard you need it, but I don't know if that's necessary. I don't know. Dakota, welcome. Good to see you. And I want to get to my next topic here today. Lane always making the show lively, giving us free content. Thank you, Lane. I owe Lane a bit of my super chats here. Okay. Here's the next thing I feel like is important to this conversation. I want to get into the playoff discussion. We obviously know what we know about the 12-team playoff and the 9-game SEC schedule. Understand that no matter what happens, it's just simple math that the SEC commissioner, Greg Sankey, is going to get roasted for the 9-game conference schedule, the Big Ten not having a P4 requirement, and the playoffs staying at 12. Sankey is going to get roasted going into next year. I'm going to be the first to tell you that. And basically, a lot of casual fans are going to go into next year and they're going to be barking at Greg Sankey, no matter what happens. Because the likelihood of there being one and maybe even two SEC teams in that 13 to 16 range is really high. They always are around there, a few extra SEC teams. So there's going to be a lot of bitching and complaining about it. And on top of that, I do think Notre Dame with their schedule is going to be a top 12 team next year. So there's going to be even more moaning about that because Notre Dame, if they're in the top 12, they're guaranteed into the playoff. No questions asked. So be ready for that. And I'm going to say this all offseason. I'm not going to say it every single show. Now, here's what you need to be ready for if you are an LSU fan. We could go 9-3 and not get in. And I'm telling you right now, I am going to get tomatoes thrown at me by a lot of you because I was so pro 9 SEC game schedule and the playoff didn't expand. And we're going to be potentially one of the 13 through 16 teams. But my thing still remains the same. I still think it's good for the SEC that they went to 9 games. I really do think so. I'm pretty confident. I don't think I'm going to change my opinion on that. I'm always open, though. I'm not one to always slam the gavel and say, hey, I am totally right about that. But there you go. All right. I want to respond to something I tweeted out a little bit earlier. It's been passed around, mini viral for me. I don't have a gazillion followers on Twitter, but this was brought up by Mo STTDB. Who do you think Lane uses as a fullback on short yardage situations like he did with J.J. Pegues? So J.J. Pegues is a former defensive tackle who is Lane's short yardage fullback. All right, so Pegues was a rookie in the NFL this last year, so this was prior he was their fourth down weapon. Number one, we don't know if Lane's going to do this again. Pegues was actually a tight end to start his collegiate career. Then he moved back to defensive tackle. But he started his career at Auburn. He was an Oxford native and then went back to Ole Miss and was a good player for them. And I'm going to give you a few names. Obviously, Bryson Martinez played Wildcat quarterback as an offensive lineman. But Lamar Brown could be that as a defensive player. But Deuce Gerald's would be the guy because he actually played running back as a defensive tackle. And he's probably going to be a very good short yardage back if you need him to be. We're also really high on Deuce Gerald's. I value high school production a little bit more than most. And you can make a case that Deuce Gerald's is the single most productive defensive tackle that LSU has ever brought in when it comes to high school statistics. Factor in the sacks and what he did defensively, and then what he did as a running back was stupendous. So it comes down to if Lane's actually going to do this or not. And then at the same time, could you see a world where it's done at all? There you go, Ryan Brown. Great minds think alike. Cass, you're welcome for the card. You deserve it. And let's go to Reggie. Carter, with Ole Miss and their new offense coordinator, do you really believe their offense will be as good as last year's offense was? If they get Chambliss back, yes. And I'm glad you brought this up. All right, so this really isn't anything you should be concerned about because I do think it was a mutually beneficial relationship. Weiss and Lane with Chambliss and Lacey. What I would tell you, though, is after watching a few Ole Miss games closely, because I'll be the first to tell you, while I do love Lane's offense, I've waxed poetic about it. I've watched it for years now. I would even get complaints that I was a Lane Glazer, if you will, overrating him and all that stuff. This past week, though, was the first time my only concentration was watching Ole Miss football. Because they're not a team I break down a lot on the SEC channel, like professionally, if you will. And when you sit down and watch them, you do begin to see how big Chambliss and Lacey were to the operation. Because I went in with the preconceived notion that, hey, so much was generated by Lane's use of formations and Charlie's great play calling. And that is still true. But goodness gracious, Lacey and Chambliss were so damn good. They were so unfreaking believably good. And what I think is going to happen to both of them is that they'll get lost a little bit in SEC lore because they didn't play in the Natty. And, the season for Ole Miss is mostly going to be remembered for how it ended. But Lane would probably be the first to tell you how good those two guys were. And, God, dude, they made some extraordinary plays. I would say like a game like the Mississippi State game where Chambliss did miss a decent amount of open stuff. Now was Lane just continuously getting things open. Charlie getting things open for the offense to operate. But the Oklahoma game, whew, Lacey and Chambliss were so good in that game. They really were. And that was the toughest matchup you can have this year in the SEC. Thought Oklahoma was the best defense in the SEC. You were on the road in Norman with weird weather. And goodness gracious, Chambliss and Lacey just made so many big plays. They avoided so many disaster plays too. And I wanted to talk about them today. I'm glad Reggie asked the question. Because if they do get both of them back, which Lacey is back for them, we don't know what's going to happen here with Chambliss, they're probably still going to be very good because those two guys are truly, truly great players. But they lose all those receivers. Caden Lee officially now at Missouri. And but if they don't have Chambliss, I'm not a big believer in Deuce Knight as a young player. Let's keep it going. I want this to be a very comment-heavy stream tonight. Why would you want a 9-game SEC schedule? Makes it harder to make the playoffs. Other conferences have an easy path to the playoffs, says Alan. It's a good question. Because we have a bunch of new viewers. This sounds like a broken record for my diehard PHLers. This is one of the few like evergreen topics that'll get brought up in more live streams. The reason I want a 9-game conference is because I choose to not let the playoff be the identity of the sport that I love the most. And by that, I mean, I love college football because of its regular season. Now, because the playoff is such a bigger piece of what the sport actually is, I'm not going to let my entire joy of the sport be sucked away just for the sake of optimizing everything for the playoff. I think that's a crappy way to live as well. You shouldn't just optimize everything for just this one new thing. There's very few things in life you should even do that for. Right? One of those things is getting married. You should optimize everything for your marriage. When you have kids, there's very few new things, though, that come into your life where every last little thing should be optimized for the success of that thing. And I feel that same way about the playoff, right? Because what I'm getting in return for a harder path to the playoff is a better SEC. All right. In the SEC now, we are getting to play every team in the conference once every 2 years. Right? So, for instance, let's go back to when the SEC was the old SEC. Was it fair for LSU to play Tim Tebow 3 straight years while the rest of the West didn't have to play Tim Tebow 3 straight years? No one else in the West had to. We did, though. Right? It's stupid. It's stupid. And there's a lot of instances of that. It's not fair to the rest of the SEC that Georgia and A&M avoided each other for essentially 12 years. It's not fair to either one of those schools. Then you get into, what about the playoff optimization? Well, the truth about the playoff is only one team's happy at the end of it. Now, that's not the case for the people that have real skin in the game. Administrators, revenue, all that stuff. Because you do make a lot more money by getting into the playoff compared to not getting in. Look at Miami. But for me, it's not why I love the sport of college football. I've always said that November is the best month of college football. I don't feel that way anymore because now November is all about the playoff chase and the transfer portal coming up and coaches being fired. So now the best month of college football season is October. It was this year and it will probably be moving forward for me. Let's go to Cole. Carter, isn't one of the transfer tight ends an H-back tight end? Yeah. In fact, there's 2 Grace brothers that are on the team. All right, one's an Oregon transfer, and the other is a transfer from South Dakota. So, yeah, he's going to play. He's not played a lot of snaps, but he's a physical player. So I'm looking forward to it. Zach Grace. So there you go. You know, one thing that's interesting. I've had a few buddies go to the Shrine Bowl practices. Xavier Thomas had a good week. Harold Perkins had a good week. Chris Hilton had a very good week. And Bauer Sharp had the fastest MPH of basically anybody there. Interesting. Let's go to Richard, our newest or one of our new members. Over the last decade, an average of 3 SEC teams ranked in the top 12. One team ranked on average 13 to 15. But that is at 8 conference games. It depends on parity. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just telling you right now, a lot of you are going to be mad at me, and you're going to be even madder at Greg Sankey. And I could see it now, but that's okay. I can live with it. I really can. But it's kind of crazy, though. This whole, think about the entire game of football. What has been the story? Year 2. It's been the story. So we had 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl teams with coaches in year 2 that missed the playoffs in year 1. We have a national championship coach, year 2. It's either year 2 or coaches that got some you-know-what done quickly. Ben Johnson, year 1. So what does that mean? Well, that means Brian Kelly wasted his year. Because what was Brian Kelly's year supposed to be? Year 2. And he had, one of the best Heisman Trophy winners of all time. So, there you go. We're in year 1 of Lane Kiffin. Can't wait. Could it be year 1 for us? I'm telling you, I'm feeling really good about next year. You guys crushed me for my defense of Josh Allen, which is crazy to me considering Drake May's not really played that well at all, and he's in the Super Bowl. Not saying I care. I'm happy the Patriots and Will Campbell and those guys are in. It's just crazy to me, though, that people link elite quarterback play with making it to the Super Bowl or winning Super Bowls when oftentimes that relationship is not necessarily a correlation. Oftentimes, quarterbacks are not playing their best football in the playoffs because it's really freaking hard. Let's go to I only run toss dive. I hate the 9-conference schedule. It's better for the sport to see more uncommon matchups, not less. But that's contradictory. Because guess what? LSU versus Missouri was uncommon. We played once every 6 years. LSU versus Georgia was uncommon. Outside of SEC championships, we played once every 6 years. You know, it's crazy. Like Georgia played Oregon more than they played Texas A&M. Georgia's in the same conference as A&M. It doesn't make sense. And they're still the non-P4, or they're still the non-conference P4 requirement. So it's not changing what you're actually getting in the non-conference, even though teams are going to soften their non-conference now. The Big Ten has 18 teams and only 6 of them are worth a damn, but mathematically at least 5 teams are getting in most years. Oh, the Big Ten has it made, dude. Because I do agree with you. The middle and bottom of that conference is really bad. And one of the best things that's happened to the Big Ten is that the programs that were supposed to be good have been down. It's actually good for the Big Ten for Michigan to not be what they needed to be, because it makes the cream of the crops way to getting to where they need to get that much easier. It's just how it is. Like, it makes it easier on Ohio State. It makes it easier on Michigan. It's made it easier on Indiana. But yes, Northwestern bad, Purdue bad, Rutgers, outside of Kyle Monangai, bad. I only run toss dive says you won't get LSU versus Oregon or Clemson anymore. Those are fun matchups. Where you're getting it now. I mean, you're getting LSU Clemson right now. You're still getting Texas Ohio State for the time being. Now, if they remove the P4 requirement, sure. But at the same time, I only run toss dive. When you expand the playoffs, you're going to get more of those games, but with higher stakes anyway. Also, something else, and this has been basically anyone with eyes can deduce this. I don't really know how to put this, but the results of these non-con games so early in the season are going to matter less and less in the eyes of the committee, because it doesn't necessarily explain how good or bad a team actually is. All right, so for example, Indiana struggled with Old Dominion to start the season. Guess who else struggled with Old Dominion to start the year? South Carolina the year before. And what did both of those teams do? Well, South Carolina had their best season in a very long time last year, and Indiana had one of the best stories in college football history. But like almost every one of those week 1 matchups lied to us, right? Like Ohio State, Texas, both quarterbacks didn't look great. What happened at the end of the season? Both those quarterbacks are really damn good. LSU versus Clemson. LSU looked great. We weren't that good. Clemson looked bad. Oh, they actually were bad. Florida State and Alabama. Alabama became one of the best teams. Florida State fell off a cliff. So, yeah, you lose those early season non-cons. But part of the thing that sucks about it is you have to play those games early in the year. Those are RR games for LSU. What does RR stand for? But I do love your name. You have the best name. 318 West Louisiana STTDB. It's my favorite username. It's so many letters. Like, it makes me wonder if 318 West Louisiana STTDB was already taken. So you're like, no, we're going to double West up in this biatch. Oh, rest recovery games. But there you go. All right, there's a few other things I wanted to get to. Oh, high school recruiting. Eastern Roll is important to me with this class. I truly do think he's special. But LSU, there are discussions that this is the greatest recruiting class of all time, the one that LSU just brought in. Now, obviously, I don't know if I could go that far, if this is the best recruiting class of all time. I doubt it will be the best recruiting class in LSU history. It's going to be hard to beat 2017. Alabama's 2017 class is legendary. There's a few of those Kirby classes that are like, what the hell? What was Kirby Smart doing? But it's just so different, right? Because recruiting classes then at the maximum were 25 players. LSU brought in 56 new players. 56. So it is completely different. But yeah, you can make a case that this is the best transfer portal class in history. So a few of you were asking, well, how much is this roster going to cost? Well, I think a rough estimate on the low end would be 30. All right, that would more so in line with what Dellinger reported, and that would be my best guess. I've heard all different types of numbers, so it's impossible. And the thing that what a lot of people want is transparency. So I have a friend in England, and I won't say we're close, but he does a YouTube newsletter called The Long Play, and it's about sports business. He did a deep dive on how EPL teams do a salary cap and how the NFL salary cap makes it the best league in the world, which I do agree with. And in terms of how they actually distributed money and all of that. And he talked about the NBA salary cap and all of it. The thing that was very refreshing, though, is you can actually see how all of it works. In college football, there is no transparency. And what I do think would be good for the sport is that we know what everybody makes. The downside of that, though, is everybody knows what everybody makes. And it would make the slandering of these young men a lot harder. Because I would say that there's still a pretty big faction of the college football neutrals, and some of you that are diehards watching this right now, you don't like that these 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kids, men, are making seven figures for playing this game when players were not paid that. And I get that. I get that. It's animosity. A lot of you have to pay your way through school. But what I would also say is, if you're a capitalist and you're big into free markets and all of that, that's basically what we're dealing with here. So there is a downside to what everyone makes. It's just out there. So you just got to be ready for whatever is ahead of us. I do think money should be transparent. I do think we should know how much each player is making and standardize this thing. Now, with hard caps and all of that, do you really want that if you're LSU? You don't. You do not want that. Because, as you can see, we're willing to spend up. And we're not footing the bill. I agree with that. Facts. LML, yeah, nah, Bo. Just area of Louisiana. I travel a lot for pipeline. There you go. All right, we'll take a few more here. Lots of super chats, new members. Shout out to Nicholas F. Thank you for loving the show, Mr. Nicholas F. Appreciate it. You know, I came to a tough realization while watching this game tonight, and I'm a big NFL guy. Keith, thank you. I appreciate it. And it's really hard for me to say this aloud, but going into the season, there were two NFL wide receivers that were way better than everyone else. And we all know who those were, right? It was Cole Beasley and Odell Beckham. Kidding. No, it was Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. JSN and Puka are in the convo now. I hate to say it. I despise saying it. JSN and Puka are in the convo. Now, Jefferson's quarterback situation is atrocious. Puka plays with the best quarterback when it comes to passing volume. But dude, it hurts me. It freaking hurts me. I loved walking around, my chest puffed out. Nobody comes close to these two. And then the other top two are going to be BTJ and Malik. And Puka and JSN. BYU and Ohio State. The two most auraless universities on the planet. Let's go to Vasha. Why would someone hate on that? That's really good that young men are making that much. Well, Vasha, get your opinion's unpopular. I don't mind it. No, they should make that money if the market says so. Let's see. God, I cannot wait for next year, dude. You know LSU football is strong when there's this many people in here. So freaking excited for next season. We're so far away. A little bit later in streams, you normally talk about the other sports. God, dude. Thomas. Cool. He's so good. I think the best player in the SEC is Darius Acuff, and he cooked us yesterday of Arkansas. But I give Matt McMahon's squad a lot of credit. It's kind of tough for me to talk about it because I was supposed to be there. But the thing that really sucked for them, though, is that they were stuck in Fayetteville. Jacques Doucet with some Pulitzer Prize-winning reporting. He was the only one that had the story. They were stuck, and they finally made it back. All right. Now, important note for LSU women's basketball. Monday night's game, 6 p.m. Central. It was supposed to be a 7 p.m. Central tip. It is now 6 p.m. Central tomorrow night. We will not be live tomorrow night. I myself will be calling the college basketball game tomorrow night. So, there you go. And they'll play Thursday versus Arkansas. They're not that good. So, they should be able to take care of business this week. Florida Gators tomorrow night. And you get the Razorbacks at home. Okay? So, LSU women's basketball cruising. For me, LSU baseball, super exciting times for baseball. Super exciting times. Do I think LSU baseball is going to win it all? You better believe it. I think we'll get to Omaha for sure. Winning it all, that's going to be tough. Been stuck in the house with the wifey, with the ice storms. Tough spot. Tough spot to be in, y'all. Nonstop murder documentaries, murder press conferences, murder. I mean, it is the most grotesque stuff. And now she's saying a bunch of stuff like, well, what if I kill you? I was like, well, what? Really? I know she's joking, but that stuff sinks in your subconscious. If I end up in the bottom of a lake, y'all know who it was. Now watch something happen tomorrow, and all y'all dox me and figure out what the hell actually happened. Carter was right. It's just nonstop, and it's never like so-and-so got stabbed and someone ran away. No, it's like the most grotesque thing you can ever think of. Well, so-and-so had her trachea ripped out by a dragon who was summoned by the overlords. It's always like something just absolutely bat crazy. I'm just sitting here trying to watch football, which is actually like real-life people trying to rip each other's faces off. All right, it's insane. Oh, for clarity, I'm not calling that game tomorrow. I wish I was. Patrick Wright needs a bullpenner. I'm right here. But yeah, I'm getting the call a college game tomorrow, but I'm not calling that game tomorrow. I wish so. Give me a call. I'll be a Ryan Rucco of women's college basketball. I love calling the women's game as much as I love calling the men's games. I call as many women's college games as I do men's games. Who all watched the guy that climbed the building yesterday on Netflix? How about that? Huh? Alex Honnold. Crazy man. Just climbing that building. That's a good way of putting it, Mac. 80, it was enough for him to get a Benz. That was probably a NIL exchange. But, dude, that Alex Honnold guy makes you want to climb a building. It was crazy, though. Like, they interviewed Alex Honnold, and he said, or he told TMZ that he didn't even make $1 million for Netflix. So Netflix centered this whole thing around his solo climbing ability. Now, to pull that off, it probably costs a lot for insurance, the broadcasters, the camera crew, renting the building, all of that. But they said he made $500K. $500K to climb that building. The whole event. It doesn't happen if he's not there. Alex Honnold. And the quote was kind of out of context when he said, like, he was disappointed with this pay. He said he would have done it for free. He's always wanted to do the building, whatever. But it is crazy. Like, the reported number was $500,000. And that is what Zion Williamson gets per game, whether he plays or not plays. So an NBA player can sit on the bench and not play a game and make the same amount of money as Honnold did for being the Michael Jordan of his sport and doing something we've never seen before. So it showed you that life ain't fair. But it was crazy. Ronnie, you're right. But I'll also say this. You're also wrong. Because that was the mentality we all had going into next year, or this last year. And we were all wrong about this. We are going to learn a lot about Brian Kelly's team playing Clemson in week 1. And that's the beauty of sports. The exact opposite was true. Literally the exact opposite. We learned nothing. Nothing. And we learned a few things. We won the game. Monster Delane's really good. So you're partially right. Yeah, of course, we'll learn something. And welcome to the channel, Ronnie. Actually, you've been around for a while. That's a hard thing. You know, that's the beauty of sports. We know very little. No other school is good at baseball. I like that, Vasha. I like that. Once again, that'll do it for me. Big thanks once again to all our super chatters this glorious evening. M. Deagle, AP Tat, David, 318, and Mr. Keith. Thanks to all our new members. We have a 1 hour, basically 1 hour free Jordan Seaton film study to go watch right now. We also have a YouTube membership video that you can go watch right now. All Jordan Seaton. Tomorrow, no live stream. We'll be back Tuesday night. Please stay safe in this weather. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Congrats to the Seahawks and the fake Patriots. Kidding. Tonight we are doing chili. Let's go.